those guys.
How about DOA report from Mr. Harness?
Explain to us what's the difference between what DOJ is doing, what the city's investigation is going to do, because you said there was an administrative thing, and tell me what the difference is.
Well, as I said to the city council, if in fact it's determined that there was tampering, it's all going to be a criminal investigation. So the thought of the city wanting to do their own administrative investigation, and what the city is alleging or trying to disprove or prove is that there may have been, if there was tampering, that it may have been from outside influences, and it may have been like a hacking situation, and they're trying to say that the system is the problem and it wasn't an internal problem with particular officers. As I understand Mr. Perry and Ms. Hernandez's argument, that they want not only a video analysis, forensic video analysis, but they also want a computer system analysis to determine whether or not there are problems with evidence.com. So they want to do they're apparently going to move forward with their own review of the situation. My argument was that going forward now, you bring in all sorts of problems. So you could have an administrative review taking place by the city, and if there are particular officers that are identified to be interviewed for this administrative review, yet they might be a target of the criminal investigation, those persons, you're going to run into situations with Garrity and Fifth Amendment protections. You could run into a situation where the civil review takes place and the criminal review comes in and subpoenas those records. So that could hinder a vendor from actually even participating in the process. So that's why I was advocating that the city wait to do the review until the criminal review is done, because if any of the allegations are true,
we have no way of knowing where that
right. Well, and that's their argument, that, well, we could wait for years until that happened. I don't know that it's going to take that long, but their argument is they don't want to wait. They don't want to wait for DOJ to finish its review and do their criminal review. But I think the bottom line is that if any of the allegations are true, they're all going to be criminal. So let the forensic experts that the DOJ uses make those determinations.
What power, if any, or interest does DOJ have in making the argument you made to APDs? In other words, if they think that their investigation could be hampered by the city's investigation, don't they have the power to stop the train?
Well, the city did reach out to the Department of Justice, and the Department of Justice told them that they wouldn't take a position on whether or not they should move forward. So the city took that as permission to go ahead.
Above our pay grade, I'm assuming. Mm-hmm. So we wait for the criminal investigation from DOJ, for which we made a request, correct? And then we review it based on those things.
Right. Then we can
go back
to our review for our administrative review.
Okay.
Because we have the citizen complaint that we have to put to some finality at some point.
Okay. Okay. And we have no idea what kind of time frame this is.
No. And I was just glad to get the confirmation that they were doing the review.
Right.
Outside of what was reported in media reports, that the attorney did send me a confirmation email that they were going to do the review.
Okay. Well, that's at least some progress. And the city hasn't even hired a vendor to do what they want to do.
Well, we started the process. Chair Moore and I, we were part of the list of vendors, and the first step was to eliminate anyone that might have any sort of conflict of interest with the city. or had done work with the city. And so both Chair Moore and I actually added a vendor to the list for the review. And then we haven't heard anything since, and that was 3 weeks ago easily.
I don't think I comprehend what the city's doing.
No, let me recap it and see if I got it right, okay? The DOJ is looking for, were the videotapes altered?
That's what I don't.
That's the criminal part. They're also looking at the things that Ed.
Well,
Ed
the city's
staff
argument that someone hacked it or did whatever.
It makes no sense to you?
Yeah,
I'm
I'm trying to like.
Well, is it possible? Well, it's possible. But Ed's argument is that, you know, if you find out that the videos were altered, that's the first and foremost thing. Don't muck with it. In the meantime, that's the position the agency is taking. But the city wants to.
That I get.
You know, apparently the city wants to
There's
look like
some other entity out there somewhere
something.
altering. I mean, I get it internally if somebody wants to cover their tracks, whatever. I get that kind of hacking. I'm mystified at the other one. So,
is there? Do you have confidence that whatever has transpired is either copied in its that the information that DOJ is looking at is not they have, and that it can't be altered at this point? You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I want to make sure that the stuff they're looking at is a set that is not still available to the city to mess with. I just don't know how else to say it.
Right.
You know, to me, it's the integrity of the process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and to me, if I was the chief of police, I would say you absolutely need to have the FBI do this, because it's the only clearance that will have any credibility.
Mm-hmm. Right. Based upon, well, when we were in this at the Use of Force Symposium, there was a full morning presentation from Grant Fredericks, who does a lot of, he's a forensic video analyst, and he does a lot of work for the FBI and the DOJ. As a matter of fact, he teaches at Quantico. My understanding is that once it gets to evidence.com, that is the original piece of evidence, and it can't be altered there. The question is, what happens in the upload?
Yeah.
And Mr. Fredericks presented that any forensic video analyst will be able to go in and look at the metadata to determine whether or not there has been an altering of the tape from its original. And he, in his position, would only work with an original tape or an original video. So he would only work with whatever is that evidence. He would not work with what the department produces as part of
He needs to get into
the file. So he would actually have to have access to the original video, and then he could do his analysis from there. So I'm confident that whomever does it will be able to go in and say yes or no. You know, because you have there, you have the video that was posted at the Albuquerque Journal of the officer that would, you know, appear to have 20 seconds of missing tape to corroborate what is in the affidavit because of the system, the buffering system. Every time an officer turns on their camera, they have 30 seconds of buffering that is actually recording what happens prior to when they actually activate. So, you know, when you're reviewing things and you hear that beep, they're activating, that's when the audio comes in. So the system is made to have that 30 seconds of buffer.
Right.
So you can review that tape and you can see that there's only 10 seconds of buffer on that. And that's a critical portion of it because that officer is only 20 feet away from
So my question is,
occurs.
You feel confident, if I heard you right, you feel confident that whatever the FBI takes a look at, DOJ takes a look at, it isn't in danger of being corrupted now?
No.
That scares the
That's
crap out of me.
possible.
That
I mean,
really scares
I
me.
mean,
always possible.
ultimately, anything is possible.
Sure.
But I'm confident that an independent person can go in and do that analysis and determine whether or not there's been a corruption or an attempt to corrupt, and when it happens. The data that's implanted in these videos is amazing. He showed us a demonstration of a video that was taken on a cell phone that was recording a fight that ultimately ended in a homicide. And he pulled the metadata right there and pulled up exactly where that happened on Google Maps, date and time, everything.
Wow. That's amazing.
So there's
So
a lot
you feel
of
confident that the FBI piece of this will at least be trustable in terms of what they were given to analyze.
Yes.
If they were given the,
Well, they're going to have access to.
okay.
Yeah.
They're going to have access to evidence and look
They're
at.
not taking copies from.
Right. They're not going to take copies from the department. They're going to go in and look.
And they
at
have the
where it's
power to do
uploaded.
that, and they will do that.
Yeah.
I have another question, and then I promise I'll stop asking questions,
Okay.
at least for today. But my other question is, given this, to me, this is such a serious accusation that I wonder, let's suppose, just because I always play out, what if this and then what if that. So if the DOJ finds that there was no tampering of evidence, okay, fine, that's one thing. If they find there was, what options does the Department of Justice have in terms of next steps? I mean, could they take over the police department? Could they? What options do they have? They've already got a settlement agreement. Clearly, what happens? What are the potential consequences for the police department if it's found that stuff
That
happens?
sounds like it would be criminal, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah.
Well, they would determine whether or not there was going to be federal or state charges, and then they would work with the local jurisdiction to have those charges brought. The broader concept of how this fits into compliance with the settlement agreement is a question that they would most likely, along with the monitoring team, take in front of the judge and have the judge make a decision what the appropriate steps might be for whether or not the settlement agreement, I don't know, could be void and then the civil action would move forward, or I don't know what would be contemplated at that point.
What's the worst consequence that's happened with the Department of Justice and local police departments in which they've intervened?
I don't know. I would have to go and really research that and see what the final outcome could be if there's a settlement agreement and then sanctions imposed. Probably, I would have to research that.
Don't. It's okay. That's all right. I'm done. I promised I'm done.
Right.